not often, I have to admit failure.
And right here you can see as to why we need to make it out of aluminum.
Welcome back to the Lost Cause Ranch! Today, we're finally going to use our little $1,000 CNC Plasma to chop up some aluminum for the actual project that we purchased this thing for. That is right, we are back on the LS3 Swap Defender, and we have the official start of the actual custom dashboard we are building for this guy. We're going to move past the cardboard test that we did a little bit ago and actually make this thing out of some aluminum, or in this thing's homeland, aluminium. Let me know if I said that right. Before we dive into the dashboard project, we're gonna knock out a quick little cut project on the Plasma. For Ted, on one of the Jeeps, he supplied a couple CAD models, but he has some notes on here with some changes. So we're gonna use another tool in our little mini fab shop to test out these changes. Trim. Yes, that laser and the Plasma behind me are my favorite pair of tools. We're gonna have Ted check our modified file that we drew with the changes he wanted, make sure this works out, and we just cut it out of some scrap cardboard, because cardboard is much cheaper than steel, and we can mess up a ton of that before it matters. This is one of those things that will never get old to do. Look at how clean that hole is. Focus, focus. And a nice clean cut on the cardboard. That is so cool to me. That was our first longer program with the $1,000 CNC Plasma. That was 3/16 mild steel, and I think that went pretty good. And obviously by the fact that we cut it out of steel, the cardboard template cut out on the laser worked out for Ted's needs. My setup is still pretty freaking hokey right now. I haven't sorted out what I want to do with a computer yet. I'll probably go ahead and get a different one. But for now, we're still using the laptop on my fancy laptop stand, which is also a material stand. Everything is pretty multi-purpose around here. So we got some tube caps and our brackets cut, and I just continue to be impressed with how this guy is performing. Let's flip this over, and on the back side, this is right off the table. Virtually no slag or dross hanging out. Could be super easy to clean up. Everything's looking on the up and up. It's hard to get it on camera, but we're getting a nice square edge now too. Starting to get this little guy dialed in the way I like. And now it's time to try some thicker aluminum. This is a bit more expensive, so hopefully I don't botch this up. So my dumbass bumped the frickin' cable while I was trying to get one of the tip-ups out of the way, and it disconnected. So we have all our inner diamonds cut out, but the outer pierced, and you probably heard it lock the torch on and did not move. So I guess now I get to figure out how to run the program from a specific spot. I know how to do it on our old one. Every problem is an opportunity to learn, and as it turns out in life, I get a lot of opportunities to learn. That means I create a lot of problems for myself. So I turned the Plasma off so I can see if this is gonna work without firing the torch and botching this chunk of aluminum up. I'd rather not do that. And as it turns out, it's gonna be more of a headache than I thought because it lost where the origin point is. It thinks this is the origin point, which should be over here. Dang it. Alright, took a little bit of jockeying around, but I think I got it all sorted out. I got the program knocked down to just the outer part. I changed where our origin was so it was easier to line up. There was our pierce on the last one. Hopefully that doesn't mess everything up having that there, because if it doesn't detect metal around it, it's just blowing a hole through, it may not start the program, but we'll see. Thankfully that worked out. That didn't turn out half bad either. Tiny bit scary in the middle there, but we were able to salvage it. I really did forget how fun these guys are to play with. It's neat that we're just able to whip something like this out, even when you have a guy who apparently doesn't know what he's doing. Do it. Well, I think that's kind of why I'm... I think the basket turned out pretty nice after we bent it up. If Ted gets that installed before the end of this video, we'll see what it looks like at the end of this video. But now that that is out of the way, it's time to accomplish something on this guy. Yes, we are back on the LS3 Swap Defender. And since I think we have the aluminum cutting pretty dialed in on our little plasma, it's time to dive in the custom dashboard project.
And right here you can see as to why we need to make it out of aluminum and not just cardboard. The last rendition just didn't quite hold up.
But now in all seriousness, the files we drew up on the laser to cut out and test fit the cardboard. Let's see if we can turn those into some aluminum and whether or not it fits. On this guy, we're gonna work center out. Start with the center stack. These are the side pieces for that, and we made the necessary changes to that as well as this to accommodate our vintage air setup. So that's the first thing that needs to be tackled before we can work our way outwards. The location of this is somewhat critical. The only downfall to having a small plasma is we have to chop stuff down to size for it to fit. The air shear made quick work of that. We did make a cool little pigtail though.
Look at how freaking nice that looks.
So nice it won't even focus. You gotta love mill finish aluminum. So we now have the start of our center stack, and unlike when we used the laser to cut it out of cardboard, it is not 3 separate pieces. It is now 1. Now we just gotta make it the right shape. That's a tiny bit easier than the 1/8 inch stuff that we were bending for Ted's basket. We're starting to get our shape in place. Right here, kind of hard to see because of the aluminum. There we go. This is our relief for the air conditioning unit. Now we just need to match the side profiles. Pop this up. We just need to make a little room for those ears to slide in. I like it. So every once in a while we run into the limitations of our tools, and this time it is the brake. So this is a box and pan brake with the removable little fingers here, but you can only build a box that is about as tall as my hand. If you have the side flanges too tall, you cannot bend them up. Like you saw there, we ran into a little interference. For what I'm trying to do, I'd need more like a finger brake. Something like this guy, or like a full-on press brake with the correct tooling, gooseneck dies, and all that fun stuff. So whenever you get to that point, you gotta do a little improvisation
stabilization. So this is how we are going to bend the rest of the way up. It's going to be a little bit more of a process and not quite as easy as just flipping in the brake and pulling up on the handle.
Well guys, it's not often I have to admit failure, but today is one of those days, or at least temporary failure for now. I got this sheet of aluminum secondhand, not exactly sure what grade it is, and it is just not gonna weld together, at least with any amount of success and cleanliness that we're looking for on this particular vehicle. I could hack it all together, but by the time I do that, this is probably gonna look like a warped piece of garbage, and that's exactly the opposite of what we're going for. This is completely my fault for trying to save a buck. We're just gonna go down to our local steel supplier and grab a sheet of 6061 aluminum that I know for sure is 6061 aluminum, and we can make something happen with it. But for now, I just don't have the time to mess with it. We're on a bit of a time crunch on something else, and it happens to be yellow, but we'll get to that in just a second. But since we're here and we have this somewhat stuck together, I'm going to get this in place, and we can at least make sure that the file and everything works and fits the way we want, and get that vintage air HVAC unit mounted into place. So when I decide to not be a cheap ass and grab the correct sheet, we can just whip out another one. Like I said earlier, problems are ways to learn. We're doing a lot of learning today. And on that front, at least we learned our process to get this guy into shape.
The more I look at this sheet of aluminum, comparing it to a known sheet here, I think I found my problem. And you guys can call me an idiot for overlooking this, but I think what we got going on here is this is some satin anodized aluminum. Regular aluminum and what we're dealing with here. So that would explain the struggles I have, or at least the struggles I have in welding this particular piece. I have a lot of other struggles, but so I guess if we were real ambitious and we wanted to use this particular stuff, we could probably grind the anodizing off where we're going to weld it, but that's just creating a whole lot of work we don't need to do, and the more we touch this, the worse it is going to turn out. We'll scrap this piece after we test fit it and chalk that up to another lesson learned. Cart before the horse, not quite paying attention as I'm going along. Look it, I found some wiring on the Nada. Do I look tired? Because I'm frickin' tired. To add to the day, it is now hailing. That's great. Well, hey, at least that guy don't look half bad in there. I think I like it. And since this isn't the final rendition now, we'll be able to make an extra tweak on it here. An oversight I had with the cardboard. I want to make this top flange longer than this side here. So then we can just run and bolt the top of that guy on. We got our cutout pretty close there, but we need to shorten this depth a touch because we have a slight gap at the top here while being flush at the bottom. So we just need to shorten this guy, a 1/4 inch or 6 millimeters across the pond. But I really think that guy is going to look the part. Like I was mentioning in the video with the original cardboard design, I'm going for like a classic Defender look with just a little bit of tweaking to make it function the way we want. We're gonna have a double din screen radio in place here, along with our AC controls, so it won't quite look as bulky as it does now. And on top of the legroom on the side here, we are also not going to eat up knee room and legroom on the bottom with the factory accessory air conditioning on these old classic dashes, where the air conditioning is added onto the bottom and eats up the room that these don't have. So what we're going to do quick while we have this guy in place here is get our mock-up vintage air unit bolted to the firewall or bulkhead. So we have one mounting point here and here. So let's figure out what we got to do. We have a convenient flap to stick this guy in. that actually fits pretty well.
We need measuring devices. I don't know what I did with them. They were right here the whole time. 10.5, 5 down. We're gonna drill there. Now, if I measured that correctly, we should be able to fit this up through here. And get a longer bolt. And since this is threaded in American, I don't have a whole lot of selection, so it's far too long. But it goes through, so not a problem. Still going. And then on this side, we got another bracket here. We're actually just gonna tweak that guy a little bit and have it sit right on top this little angle. And this is closed in on the bulkhead, so I'm just going to run a... I'll have to grab another one. I'll hold on to it this time, but a self-tapper. There.
That actually fits in there pretty freaking nice. We got our fuse box and our bulk wiring going through on the back side of it. We'll just need to create a spacer to stand off the bulkhead with this bolt, and that'll lock everything in. And with the space in the center stack, we'll be able to come off with all our outlets for the air, and we're still gonna be able to keep everything open on each side,
which was a real big goal of mine. On the next one, we'll clearance this corner is just barely touching, so we'll adjust that file as well. Not bad for something that was just made out of thin air. Let me know what you guys think of this. I'm gonna fit up the rest of it real quick too, so we can get a full visual again.
The driver's side is still looking pretty dialed, and I think all this is gonna turn out the way I want. And we'll be able to do some grills in here and still use our front bulkhead vent flaps for some fresh air. And I'm super excited about that. We'll close off this to hide all our necessary wiring for the steering column. I don't know what I measured before, but I gave us some extra clearance on this guy compared to the cardboard cutout, and that extra clearance is way more than an inch. So we'll adjust that, and then I'm gonna have to adjust this lower piece to probably have a little bit different angle to clear the bottom of the blower motor. So that's good to know, and I think we'll be able to make this look very nice as well. And we'll make an access panel to the blower motor here that'll be closed off. An inner piece here with a little parcel tray so we can throw our junk up there, just kind of like the factory one. So super excited how that is going. So that's where we're gonna leave the Defender tonight, which brings us to the Eco Challenge once again. I freaking love this thing, and since I love it so much, we're going out to Moab shortly, and I'm gonna drive this 1996 Land Rover from Iowa to Utah. I think it's like a 1,500 mile drive one way. Then we'll be wheeling out in Moab, obviously, and then driving it home. But before that happens, not sure if you can catch it on camera, but beyond the boot being frickin' chooched on this tie rod, the threads right there inside the tube are stripped out. So I'm guessing it'd probably be a good idea to take care of that before the trip. But no, so we are going to take care of that. The last couple wheeling trips with this guy must have done a number on that. Pushing up against rocks and trees with the tire and whatnot. So we'll take care of that. We're going to change out the diff fluid, transfer case fluid, oil, and whatnot just in preparation and give it a good once over and take care of anything foreseeable before we make the trip. Good news is, in typical Joe fashion, I left myself enough time to accomplish all this because we leave in 3 days. With that being said, I appreciate you guys watching, appreciate you subscribing, and I'm glad we were able to get something accomplished on the LS3 Defender. Even though we're redoing it, progress is progress. We'll be able to whip out the next rendition in a super quick fashion along with the rest of the dash. So stay tuned for that. I'm guessing the next video is going to involve getting the Eco ready for Moab along with maybe the trip out there. So with all that, we're going to leave you with me watching a robin start a nest right outside my kitchen this morning.